So those are two things. Today, what I want to talk about, and it's the week is about social change and activism. And the first thing I want to say is that social change and activism, everything, rights don't just come to us. All the positive things in the world today, the cool things that we see around us, they come because people either asked for them or more likely demanded of them. And so people have the idea of making the world a better place, looking around us and seeing what is in the world, and then saying, how can I improve it? And how can I just make things more rockin' than they currently are? And this is activism, you all right? So, a very simple thing. Women started to activate around the right to vote in 1848. So women were not allowed to vote at all. And it took until 1920 to pass the 19th Amendment. And so these women that you see here, they are the ones that stood out and said, no, we are going to change the world. And so, today, I love this one. That sign says, I wish Ma could vote. Look at them. And what you don't see, and maybe what you don't really understand, is that people at the time, the majority of the population, were saying, no, women don't deserve the right to vote, should not have the right to vote, and should not be voting. It's a bad idea. And people were hurling things at them and throwing things at them and telling them to go home, and you're destroying society, you're destroying the families, you're doing this, you're doing that. All the kinds of things that many times people today do toward activists. So something as simple as, look, every woman in this classroom, if women before you hadn't pissed off a bunch of men and a bunch of people in power, if they hadn't done acts of civil disobedience, the doors would not have been open to women in this classroom. And so what that leads me to think is like, oh, okay, well, how maybe in 40 years are we going to look back at transgendered bathrooms or the transgender community or the LGBT community, just even in my lifetime, how we think differently about this generation of most of us in this room think very differently about lesbian, gay, bisexual issues compared to how people thought when I was your age. And so just something like transgender bathrooms, it may be that every bathroom down the road will just be transgendered. And people will look back and say, what were y'all thinking? Like, what's the problem? And so this is activism. Sometimes it seems uncomfortable. If you were back here, most of you would not have joined them. You would have said, like, I don't want to be a rabble-rouser. I don't want to be like them. Well, then what are the issues today for which many of us are saying the same things? And later we'll look back and people will say, wow, what were you all thinking? Were you involved in that? Why weren't you involved in that? What were you doing? And like, okay, what do you mean? Whatever it would be, right? So here, last class we were talking about climate change, and I was really trying to emphasize to you all, this is a dynamic and exciting time to be alive. It's not, you can bury your head in the sand, but that's only going to really hurt things. And so this was last weekend. There were manifestations or demonstrations or parades or activism in 60 communities throughout Europe. Just because it's not happening here doesn't mean it's not happening around the world. And so this was in Paris last weekend. Being said, look, stop the climate crime. We're one. Like, people standing up and saying no. Like, if you think about what I said last class about all the people who are saying this is coming at us, this could be the end of the future of human beings down the road. Not now. We have some time, but why wouldn't you be out active? Well, that's what they're saying. So look at this. Back in 2015, this was also Paris because the French government said they stripped away the rights of people to peacefully assemble around the issues of climate change. And they basically made it a crime for people to start talking against climate. It was really intense. And people went out and they said, no, F you. And so look, this is people battling the police just because they think we should talk about climate change. And if you really think, whoa, the earth, this is really significant for our future. Why wouldn't you be out battling the police? Why wouldn't you be these people right here taking tear gas right into your face. Like, why wouldn't you do that? What are you going to tell your kids? Nah, I just sat back because, whatever, I was busy. Like, what? Seriously? Like, what are we going to tell our kids? So this is activism, right? And so look at this woman right here. I love that shot. That's such a great shot. Why wouldn't we be like her? Like, what's it take? What would it take? What's it mean? So one of the reasons, like, people become activists for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes we just awaken to something. Maybe it's one day, like those of you who have become vegetarians. Maybe one day you were just looking at an animal that was alive and then it's dead. And you just had this realization. Maybe, like, I remember one day my wife and I had a dog for 16 years, a Portuguese water dog. And when his hair was long, he looked like a sheep, a lamb. And one day I was eating lamb. And I looked at a lamb. And we were in Spain. And our dog was with us. And I remember eating this lamb. And then looking at a lamb. And looking at my dog. And it just hit me. It just hit me. Just like a ton of bricks. And I felt this I just had been eating meat my whole life, not really thinking much of it, just doing it, not thinking about it. And it just hit me. Like, I'm eating my dog. I might as well be, because this lamb looks just like my dog, and the lamb could be in my house just like my dog is, but I would never eat my dog. And it just hit me in this way that, like, oh my God, I understand why people or how people could become activists about eating meat. And then you think about the live sentient beings. And, when we go to the store and, I'm walking down, the meat aisle. And here's this meat, and it's in these little plastic styrofoam containers. And I'm just looking at it as though it wasn't a live sentient being. But if it was a dog or a cat, and if I got to the part of the aisle where it said dogs, and another part of the aisle said cat, and I was taking dogs and cats out, then I would say, oh my God, look, this is so horrible. Well, why isn't it horrible if it's a pig? Pigs are really smart. Chickens are really smart. Why not? Why cows? Why not a horse? And like, what happens to activists is one day you just have this moment where you just see, we allow ourselves to see something. And it just changes everything. So, I still eat meat, by the way. No, but I don't eat factory farm meat. Like, I don't. And I don't eat any animal that I wouldn't myself kill. That's just part of the exchange. So, I have killed plenty of animals, and that just gives me that sense. It doesn't make me better. It's just my way of understanding. We all have our ways of understanding. So I'm not going to impose mine onto somebody else that they should or shouldn't. And somebody doesn't impose it onto me. Sometimes we become activists because we experience something that's just really deep to us. And it's just like, it can hit us in an equal way. And so, for me, back in the mid-'80s, I was spending a lot of time traveling back and forth to Latin America. And one day I was walking down the road in Nicaragua. And Nicaragua was in the middle of a war, and a civil war. And one side of the civil war was being funded by the United States. And that side was committing a lot of atrocities against the civilian population. And I was just walking down this road by myself. I had walked in to the country from Costa Rica, and I hopped on the back of a bus or a truck, and no, that's not it. I caught a ride with the guy. If you're from Pittsburgh, you'll know who this is. The guy who was the roommate of Roberto Clemente when Roberto Clemente came up to play baseball when he was 19 years old. And this guy was his roommate. It was really cool. Told me a lot of stories. And he gave me a ride to this little town, and then he dropped me off. And I was walking down this country road, and I came to this house, and there was a really old woman sitting in a chair on the front porch. And she said, "Oye, gringo, ¿dónde vas?" And I said, I don't know, I was on my way to this Guatemalan refugee community. I was delivering some medicines for some friends. And I said, I don't know. So I sat down and I started talking to her. And the whole front of her house was destroyed from a missile. And the missile was the side that the Americans were funding. And she told me the story. And she told me what happened. And she said, in the end, after we talked for about a half hour or so, she said, listen, you need to promise something to me. I need you to promise. And she looked like she was, in my recollection, she's like 90 years old, but maybe she was 70. I don't know. But she said, when you go back, you're a teacher, when you go back, you need to talk about these kinds of issues, and you need to talk about some of the things that your country does. And for some reason, I had lots of experiences at that time, and I've had many since, but for some reason, she got inside of me, and she lives inside of me, and she just activates that activism piece, right? So sometimes it's just chance. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations that are just really unjust and wrong. And we see it, and we understand it, and it's just wrong. And we just feel like we can't be silent anymore. And so we just step up, and we move forward, right? So, we're going to have a conversation with one of your classmates, Devine. I've said... Class, you know Devine. All right. Have a seat, my friend. So,
what's up, y'all?
How do you pronounce your last name?
Lipscomb.
Lipscomb.
Lipscomb. Exactly where it looks.
And where are you? So where are you from?
I'm from Brooklyn.
From Brooklyn originally? Dude. Come on, man. You New Yorkers, you got it. So, tell us about yourself, man. Growing up, where'd you grow up? Just give us a little bit of a background on your family. And you're going to be here for a little. You and I, we're going to have a conversation because Devine is an activist, and so we're going to hear his story about why he's an activist. So, tell us about your childhood.
Well, I grew up in a pretty large family. Not really that large. My mom has 4 children. But
wait, how many?
4.
4?
But
and are you the oldest, youngest?
I'm the oldest boy from my
The oldest
mother.
boy?
Yeah. But I grew up in Bushwick until I was about 10 years old. And the man who raised me, who I believe was my father, was not. So I met my dad at 10, when I was 10.
When you were 10?
When I was 10, 1993. Yeah. That always sticks out for me, simply because I always tell people my life started when I was 10 years old. And I say that I met my dad, I found out my dad wasn't my dad, and my stepfather also came into my life. Those 3 men literally shaped me into who I am. Mm-hmm. So my dad, who wasn't my dad, raised me, right? He was older. He had old school values, principles, morals, respect. He ingrained that into me. My stepfather taught me everything that I know about the street. Everything.
About the street.
About the street.
Yeah.
Which is important. That's a key component in the story, right? And then my dad,
Your biological
my
father.
biological father, played his part, but he didn't play his part until I was an adult. And that's also important. Anyway, Brooklyn in 93, none of you guys were probably even thought of yet, was a total different, animal. And I say animal for a reason. Yeah. The crime rate in New York City was at its highest between 1990 and 1997. It was at its peak in 1993 and 94. So I was introduced to the streets by my stepfather in 1993. And but my stepfather had 8 children. So we all grew up in my household at one point or another. My dad had 14 kids, my biological father.
Damn, dog.
And so I know most of them as well. And so being in that dynamic, you know, I was the oldest, but I wasn't the oldest. I was responsible. You know, I had a role to play. Moving a little forward, around 1997, I started to experience some things, you know, some real life things, childhood traumas, incarceration. I caught my first felony offense. I was 14 years old.
14 years old?
14 years old.
A felony offense?
Felony offense.
What was it?
Armed robbery.
Armed robbery?
Yeah.
14.
Yeah.
So now you're at this time, you're really engaged, you're on the streets, man. Because I know Brooklyn at that time, right? Like you're just like.
I was groomed.
Playing it, yeah.
Those 4 years, from 93 to 97, I was being groomed for incarceration.
Yep.
Didn't know I was being groomed for it. You know, I didn't know that I was being groomed for gang life. I didn't know.
In the whole system, in some ways, was just sort of set up to deal with that, right?
And most people don't like to acknowledge that the system, those systematic structures that are in place.
Okay, so you're 14, you get your first felony.
Yeah.
Armed robbery, dude. Who'd you rob?
Some kid on the train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get anything?
I didn't actually rob him.
Yeah.
So I mentioned 93 because that was the first time I witnessed domestic violence in my household. My stepfather was abusive to my mom and my siblings. And so I was introduced to violence. I went from this structure of discipline, morals, to this family disruption, you know, which a lot of people don't take into account. Family disruption right into violence. And so I started to perpetuate those same actions, fighting in school, cutting school, smoking weed, drug addiction. Those cycles, those infrastructures that play a part in a lot of stories of individuals who are incarcerated, you know, that people don't understand, that people overlook. And so by the time I was 12, 13, I was in need, you know, because things were lacking in the household. That father figure that was there was a father figure, but he really wasn't, you know. So the streets offered that for me, you know.
So when I'm going to keep going. So I want to come back to that as the streets offering that, because that's a really important piece here. As it's true in every community, right? It's just that people in some communities don't realize that what they're being groomed for by their entire community is one kind of life. Well, why isn't that different? Why would we think that's any different somewhere else, say like with you, right? Okay, so you're 14. So what happened to you? Did you go to juvie?
I went to juvie. I spent a couple of months in juvie, and they kicked me back out to the streets on, it was a youth advocacy project that the judge decided I was qualified for. It was programming, it was drug testing every week. I had to sit in groups. First time I began to actually look at myself to identify some things. They decided I wasn't fit to stay in the streets because I had a substance abuse issue. So in treatment, programming was suitable at the time. So from 14 to 15, I was in and out of drug programs, inpatient, outpatient, then inpatient. Groups, heavy, intense therapeutic groups. Trust me, a 14, 15-year-old should not be going through those kind of groups. But it was there that I realized, you know, I have something to offer to people. Didn't really matter at 15 because, you know, I was 15. But then after that, I came home, right back to the same environment. Parents are addicts. Community is still there. My gang life is still, you know, present. Actually, it increased once I came out of the facility. See, because juvie gives you street cred.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And once you get that street cred, people look to you for certain things, you know.
Yep.
And I've always had a leadership mentality,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so I elevated. I climbed in certain ranks, and I was sought after for certain things. I was a pretty violent kid, you know, which means something in the
Yeah.
streets.
Yep.
So by the time I turned 16, I was ready for the big leagues. I caught another violent offense, another armed robbery, where I actually did not participate in. I stopped the robbery, but I can't tell that my co-defendants are actual perpetrators. So I was sentenced to 4 years in prison at 16.
So as a juvenile, so you were sentenced into,
As an
you were
adult.
tried as an adult?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And so now you were 15?
16.
16, so you're sentenced an adult, so now you're in prison until you're 20.
Yeah.
And then, where'd you go, where were you in prison?
So I was in prison upstate New York.
Yep.
I visited 7 different facilities.
And
During
when
my
you,
stay.
and when you, okay, so then you got out.
Yeah. And I went
At
back
20.
to at 20. I moved to the Bronx when I was released. While I was incarcerated, I started to find some things. You know, I spent 14 and a half months in solitary confinement.
14 and a half months.
Yeah, in a box.
Because when you were in, you
I got
were,
in trouble.
got in trouble, yeah,
got in trouble a lot.
Yeah, you're not
I
gonna
had a
follow
problem with authority figures.
Yeah.
I didn't like CEOs telling me what to do.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It wasn't even from fighting or like none of my incidences were
Yeah, I got
from violence. It was you're
It's
a
just
cop
being
and I
obstinate.
don't like I
Yeah, I
don't like
got
you.
you.
Don't tell me what to do.
Okay, so now you're 20, you get back out, you move to the Bronx.
Move to the Bronx,
Uh-huh.
get married, have a kid. In the process of doing that, I went back to school.
Like high school.
No, college.
So you had your GED?
I got my GED. Well, as an adolescent, you are forced to go to school
Yeah,
while you're
got you.
incarcerated.
Okay.
So I got my GED. You know,
Okay.
I scored pretty high on my GED, which also told me I wasn't a dumb kid, like everyone else told me I was. But school still wasn't for me. You know, I always liked to write. I always liked to read. I just wasn't built for school.
So built for college in particular?
No, school,
Oh,
period.
just school, period. Yeah, I got you.
So,
Okay.
but when I got out, I knew I needed to do something different.
Or
I
you were
just-
going to end up back.
I was going back, you know, and my parole officer was a jerk, so I needed to do something. People didn't want to hire me.
Wait,
First of
hang on,
all-
hang on. I want to back up. When you say he was a jerk, so I understand what this is. Like, if you don't really understand this, your parole officer can send you back for anything. You could be 2 minutes late meeting your parole officer. You could be
He actually did send me back.
Yeah,
He sent me back for carrying a bandana.
carrying a bandana.
Yeah. I did an additional 2 months after I served the 4 years.
So just like a handkerchief
Yeah.
that happened to be a bandana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a bandana, but it was a bandana.
Yeah. Okay, so go ahead. So now,
So now I'm in college. I have a kid. You know, I can't find work. It's just not happening for me. New York is it's changed since 2003, but back then, 2 violent felonies. You know, that was on my record. It wasn't going anywhere.
yep.
So I figured school was my way out. Then I couldn't feed my kid, and she couldn't eat books. So I resorted back to what I knew how to do. You know, went back to the streets. By the grace of God, I didn't, end up back in prison. I've been home 15 years and 6 months. So, but back then it was like I didn't know I was going to be home this long. I was just
Yeah.
living.
It was just like, if I'm lucky, I won't go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, so 15 years and 6 months?
Yeah.
It's like AA. You know what I mean?
You count that time.
Dude,
It's
you count-
important.
Is anybody in AA here? Anyone in the program? By chance? You have family and parents and stuff who are, right? You
It's
count like-
anonymous. They're not going to tell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right.
But
Yeah, well,
so
it's
then,
like, yeah.
so
I really wasn't expecting anyone to raise their hand, but yeah, go ahead.
I mean, AA is important though. If
No, but
if
it's
you
like,
do
so it's
have
like
a,
you.
if you do have a substance abuse issue, I mean, I encourage AA and NA. Not a whole advocate for it because I got clean the first time without it. I mean, with it, and then I got clean again without it. So.
Okay, so you come back out. So say some things about what you're doing today.
There we go.
So this is now your, so I don't want to get the backstory, but say some things about your activism today.
So today, currently, I am.
And now you talk to the class.
I have a lot of things going on, actually. I'm the executive director of Corrective Gentlemen, which is a mentorship / entrepreneurship / reentry program. And what we do is because there's no one else but me at the moment, I meet returning citizens where they are. You know, I help them deal with their current state. You know, a lot of people do not understand the process of returning from an institution where you're instructed to do even the smallest task. Like, you have that guidance, and then you're thrown back into the streets with no assistance. You don't know how to deal with rejections. You don't know how to do anything without being told.
And yet you're expected
Yeah,
every
of
step
course
of the
you're
way,
expected.
Mom.
And
So
if you don't do it, you go back.
It's like you've never walked a straight line your whole life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly we throw you, we institutionalize you, we bring you back out. We say, okay, now walk a straight line.
And go get a
You never-
job.
Yeah, and go get a job that you can't get hired. And
Right.
okay, so go ahead. So
So-
you are executive director of this organization.
I am also special projects coordinator for the Restorative Justice Initiative here on campus. We're housed in the College of Education, and that is a collective of students, faculty, and staff who go inside of our county and state prisons here, and they teach programming to individuals that are incarcerated. I sit on the Reentry Coalition here for the county, and I sit on the subcommittee for the Pennsylvania State Reentry Coalition. So I'm pretty involved in a lot of things that's going on. And then I also help with Hearts for Homeless. It's a local homeless organization here. The executive director is one of my friends. She gives me a call when she gets new people who are released from our county facilities.
So that's very cool, by the way, man. So I mean, I think that people, I want to hear a little bit more about reentry, and I think that I want to hear a little bit more about your take on what's unfair about it. You know, because I have this sense that, like, you committed these crimes. Like, we say, if you commit armed robbery as a juvenile, if you commit armed robbery twice as a juvenile, if you do it as an adult, whatever it is, right? We've got these penalties associated with that. And if we convict you, we're going to convict you in within this range of penalties, a number of years, and you're going to go serve your time. And then presumably, when you serve your time, you're done, right? You've served it, so like, okay, I've done that. How much? It's not a life sentence. It is, in your case, you had 2 years, right?
No, I did. In total, I did 6, but I did 4 years straight in prison.
So 4 years straight in prison. So presumably, we didn't say, hey, you're going to do 4 years in this prison, and then you're going to do 40 years over here when you get out. It was 4 years in prison. And so tell us a little bit about what really motivates you to be involved in all of this reentry work. A little bit more, if you could.
I mean, it's funny because I was walking with a fellow classmate on my way here, and I was explaining to her how, even in my current work, it's narratives. And everything is about narratives and power structures. You know, most people will say, I don't want this felon here. I don't want any, parts of X, Y, Z. So one, the narratives have not changed all that much. Mm-hmm. One of the stereotypes is that, everyone coming out of prison is dangerous. We just don't need to have them around. So what I've been noticing, especially here in Pennsylvania, they changed the narrative. We call it returning citizens, because we're citizens. We just went to prison, came home, and we're still citizens. See, and that goes into statistics, like which a lot of people don't touch. Pennsylvania is the largest state on the East Coast that incarcerates individuals. The third largest in the country. That's high.
Yeah.
You know, 1 in every 9 individuals in Pennsylvania, doesn't matter your ethnicity, is going to prison.
Yeah.
You're going to jail. I mean,
You're
so
going to have some connection with prison or
whether
jail.
it's parole, probation, or actual incarceration. You know, so any one of us has been on probation. You know, it's 750 people in here. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
And so, my job is to advocate for employment. I did a presentation a couple of weeks back with some employers where even some of my colleagues, their narrative was, hey, let's get these nonviolent offenders work, because if we don't get them back into society, it's going to look like X, Y, Z. And at the same time, they were highlighting all of the negative aspects, gang life, substance abuse, you know, violent offenders, as if I wasn't sitting at the table with them.
Right.
It's like, wait, dude, I'm your colleague. You know me.
Yeah.
And so I had to go up and explain to these employers, potential employers, I'm everything that you just seen on this board, right? Why don't I deserve a job?
Why don't you deserve a chance even? Yeah.
And why is it that someone who comes from a similar background as me, why don't they deserve a shot? You know, from a security purpose or standpoint, if a violent offender comes home, right, and they're like, hey, I want to go to work, I want to go to school, and we say no, what do you think the outcome is going to be? Mm-hmm. They're going to resort back to what they know how to do. Mm-hmm. Thus, the recidivism rate continues to stay high. Mm-hmm. And so we just added another potential victim to that list.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I see and that I've experienced in the years is that we is this idea that it's a stereotype of people who are violent will always be violent. And there's a subset of people who are violent who will probably always be violent. Like, and you know some of them, and I know some of them. Yeah. But that's not true of most people. And so the issue is, if we lump everybody, as you're saying, into this one single category, what we're doing is we're creating a society that is actually less safe and more problematic and more troubled and more precarious. And this is a problem for all of us.
And that's the issue. Like, most people who are in prison make plans for when they come home from prison. And those do not include going back to the streets. I promise you, that is not the narrative.
Yeah.
I'm going to go home and I'm going to get a brick and throw me a brick. No.
Yeah.
No. They could say, I'm going to go get a job. I want to go start a family. I want to go live a normal life.
Yep.
But what's normal? By whose definition does normal actually exist?
Well, and also the issue is, if I could take it in a different direction, the problem is a normal life. If we make it really impossible for you to do that, like we make it impossible for you to get a job. Right. It's like, well, what are you going to do? You're going to go get money. You got to survive somehow. So you're going to get money the way you got it when you were, 16 years old or whatever, or when you were 20 and you just got out and you couldn't get a job. Right. So you're going to move in that direction. If you had to say, what keeps you? Like, what motivates you, man, to keep going?
Well, my kids.
Wait, how old are you now?
I'm 35.
All right.
Yeah, I'm old. Almost
Dude,
old.
you are old, man. It's all good, though. You got a long way to go.
So one of the things that I noticed, so I created this program about 6 years ago, but it came to life 6 years ago, but it came into my thought process about 11 years ago when I started my first business. I owned a t-shirt business, and it was because no one wanted to hire me. Literally, no one wanted to give me a job. And so I realized that entrepreneurship was the way to go. I gained some self-sufficiency, and I was like, hey, why not produce this, replicate this? Why not teach other individuals how to become self-sufficient?
Yeah, because it's if you have employers who are unwilling to take that risk, it's not even risk. If they're unwilling to open that door,
Right.
then you don't have a choice but to be self-employed.
And let's be honest, if you sell drugs, you already have transferable skills.
Yeah.
You can own your own business.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
Yeah. I
you
can
probably
say
wasn't
that's
good at it, but you have those skills. They can transfer over. But no, that drug program at 15, a lot of people used to tell me, Devine, you should be a counselor. Devine, you should be a counselor. In my family, in that abusive household, I was the caregiver. So I learned what my intersectionalities are, like my roles in every situation that I've been in. I care for people. And so despite everything that I've done in the 15 years that I've been home, I learned that I'm at my center, I'm at peace when I'm helping someone else. Why not help people who come from similar backgrounds as I have?
Yeah.
And
Cool.
so that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, very cool, man. Hey, what are the? I want to throw me a number. I want you to throw a number out.
Okay.
What are the chances? Because I know this is always sort of in people's minds, right? What are the chances that you, Devine, are going to do something? Here you are. You're in this world. You're on campus. You're working. You have these organizations. You're moving forward, right? What are the chances that you are going to do something, I don't know, violent or whatever, that's going to land you back in prison?
So my chances of committing a crime is equal to yours.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly.
Literally.
Dude. Yep. That's what people don't see, man.
They don't.
It's like you've walked. It's like you've walked through a doorway.
Once you're home, the recidivism rates is 3 to 5 years. If you do not recidivate within those 3 to 5 years, the likelihood of you going back to prison drastically decreases.
And when you get up beyond 10 years, it's like
Oh,
at
yeah.
some point it starts to get equal to everybody else.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I mean, it's also about the narrative I carry by myself. So, and I've been checking those narratives, I'm a gangster or, I'm a convict. It wasn't until I started changing those narratives where other doors started to open. So, because people internalize the things that are given to them, whether it's, we're social beings. This is what you teach us, right?
Yep.
So if someone constantly says, you're a gangster or you're a thug or those little thugs, media outlets, this is what you're going to internalize. You're never going to be anything. Mm-hmm. You're never going to be successful.
Dude, totally.
Said who?
Yeah.
Who are you to make that discernment? So, but it wasn't until I started to internalize my own narratives, believing that I am worth it, that I can do something, watching the growth and development of my own boys, when I started to realize, wait, you're impactful, you have a direction, you have a responsibility. I have a responsibility not solely to myself, to my children, to my community, to those who are coming up behind me. My motto is, no one was on this side when I was ready to come over. There wasn't anyone for me to turn to.
Yeah.
So I want to be that dude on the other side when they're ready. I can't tell you, Sam, don't go sell that pound of weed. I can't say that to you if I don't give you a viable solution to selling that pound of weed. But what I can do is say, you know what, when you're ready, I'm going to be here for you.
Yeah. Cool, man. Yo, very cool, dude. Yeah, it's cool. Lori and I have done a lot of work out at Rockview, right? And we have spent a lot of time, in particular, with lifers. Nice. And, dude, I have Lori has she has a spiritual brother, mentor, guy.
Their perspective is crazy, isn't it?
Dude, man, like his lifers, just see if you don't know, in Pennsylvania, life means life. Like you never getting out of prison unless you get exonerated by the governor. So it takes about 10 years for people to really accept the fact that they're never getting out. But then you get about 10 years in and you hit a crossroads, and the one road is death. Because you're just going to do what, you're going to be in the hole, you're just going to go there. Or the other goal is you take a spiritual journey. But I'm telling you, man, those guys that take the spiritual journey, there are some holy men out there in that prison, man.
So it was actually the older gentleman, because like I said, I was 16 in prison. And most of my comrades had 20, 30 years in. And that's how I avoided most of those pitfalls as far as catching new charges, things of that nature. They kept me with books. They kept me exercising. I didn't exercise until I went to prison. They taught me how to box. There was always an OG who was like, "Come here, young blood. Let me keep you out of trouble."
Yeah.
And had it not been for a lot of those men, I probably would have still been in prison. Catching new charges. So. Much respect to the lifers and the people who have to adapt to that environment for the rest of their life.
Listen, man, and we have this idea, we just throw people in and forget. And God, the conversation, just the relationships that we have had, and Lori, we both continue to have, but Lori in particular, with a couple, oh my God, I just love these guys. They're like the quality human beings that you just would never. So that's why I really wanted the class to have an opportunity to talk to you, because I know that, or to hear from you, because I know that when you go through what you've gone through and you get to the other side, it's just this amazing, remarkable journey, dude. And
it's funny because when I started back here, because I got my associate's degree about 10 years ago. And I was like, wait, I need to go back to school. So last semester I transferred in. It took me 3 tries to get in here, by the way, before they decided to let me in. But I was persistent. You're gonna get me in here. But anyway, my first 2 weeks here, I suffered social anxiety. And I'm from New York, so that shouldn't be possible, right?
Yeah.
But it was too many people.
Yeah.
And they're young. And so I was like, how do I fit in? And that's actually how I found restorative justice, talking with professors and, being at panels, being in certain environments, because I couldn't relate to most of my classmates, I still don't relate to most of my classmates because they're from a different,
different world.
Different world.
Different experience.
So,
but dude, I think that you'll meet some people now. And throughout the rest of the semester, make sure that you take an opportunity to, people take an opportunity to meet you, man. It's good.
I constantly challenge my group to come talk to me. I challenge their perspectives. Like, dude, you can't think like that.
Dude, especially when you're 35, man. It's like, so listen, thanks, bro. Yes. Appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. And I'm not going to ask I'm not going to see if anyone has any questions for you, because you got to just ask you directly, man. It's too, wow. Yeah, really, dude, I really appreciate it, honestly. Thanks. It is, so sometimes in the, one of the things about teaching that I learned from people around me, most of what I have, I just learned from people around me, man. And one of the greatest, the coolest things about my job is never being here, because most of my job, I'm just sitting in front of my computer taking care of paperwork. And a couple times a week I get to come and stand in here, and it's really enjoyable. But a part of my job that's really behind the scenes is that I get to meet really cool people. So just like now I've met you. And over the years, I meet a lot of folks. So, I think back to the very first person who I mentored when I was 26 years old, I think. And she came to me actually with this idea that she wanted to commit suicide. And I don't think I told this story, right? And she said, "You're a sociologist, and I want you to talk me out of it." And I said, "Well, first off, let me just ask, do you have a plan?" "Yeah." "What's your plan? Where are you going to do it? When would you do it?" And she walked me through the steps of everything, so I knew that she was really serious. And I said, "Oh, shit. Okay." So she said, "What would you say as a sociologist?" And I said, "Look, I can't talk you out of committing suicide because that would be silly. It's your life and you can do what you want." Because she wasn't depressed or anything. She just was done. And what I said was, "But what you got is you're young and you haven't lived. You know, it's like you haven't lived, man. It's like when you got to put some more years in. And so put some years in and come back and see me in 10 years and then tell me you're ready to do it now, and I'll be like, cool, go for it. You know, whatever. It's all good. But you got to put some years in. Like, you don't understand what living is when you're that age, in the age of most of us in here." Well, later we continued to be in contact and over the years, and she now lives up in Canada, has a couple kids, but she got married. And I was a bridesmaid in her wedding, right? And so I wanted to wear a dress, but she made me wear a tux. And so, anyway, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. But that's just like the awesomeness of being in this position. So I want to. What I want to do is introduce you to somebody else who is coming through town, was in town for the JT concert last night, who was a student in this class 20 years ago, I don't know, and but is by the way, check this out, just want to show you, is definitively a troublemaker, all right? And so this is a former student of mine, Mohammad. Yeah. Man. Welcome, man.
Sam, I appreciate you airing out my age. Thank you for that.
Listen, man. It's all, but you don't.
Feeling young on the inside,
no,
man.
But you're like Devine. Black don't crack. You know what I mean? So you're all good.
Devine, I'm with you, brother, man. Thank you for that story too, man. Thank you. We definitely need to talk. I work up in New York, so we got some work to do together, man, for sure.
So listen, man.
It's good to be home. It's good to be home. I was telling my sister, whenever I come back to campus, man, it's just like pure joy. Pure joy, like all the fatty food I used to eat and all that great stuff, man. At like 3 a.m., even though I had better options, it was like, I'm going to eat the chili dog anyway and then go to bed right after that. Like, incredible. Still working it off. 20, 30 years later, whatever that number is that you threw out, still working it off, man. Anyway, this is your show, not mine. I'm sorry.
No. It's all you, my friend. Listen, Ahmed, where's that from? Tell me. I mean, that's your stage. I mean, that's your artist name. But where's that come from?
So, I mean, in brief. So what I do. So my nickname beyond that is the Batman of social impact. And what does that mean? Well, my Bruce Wayne side is by day, I wear a suit, so a little bit more dressed up than this, but I work in the nonprofit sector. I've been an executive for a number of different social impact organizations around the country. That's my Bruce Wayne side. My Dark Knight side is I'm a hip-hop artist, and I use the power of music to be able to affect social change. So as an artist, my artist name is Amen, and the reason why is because I was trying to think about what does my music represent, and the word that kept coming back to my mind was change. And I think it'd be kind of corny if I was like Lil Change or MC Change, something like that. And I was like, all right, what is another way to say change? And one of the words that came to my mind was amendment, like taking a system or a structure and amending it, changing it in some shape or form so that you can have a different form of system in the future. So I decided to shorten that to Amen. And here we are.
Dude, I didn't know that story. How do I not know that story? Very cool.
Just trying to drop gems on you, man.
And that is you. That is you. So what inspired you? So this is a day to talk a little bit about activism, right? What inspired you to be a troublemaker, right? Because that's what it is.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. You know, I think at first for me it was a lot of frustration. I remember when I was 10, my dad showed me Malcolm X, the movie by Spike Lee. Anybody seen Malcolm X? Not enough people. That's your homework. All right, for Social 119. I'm overwriting whatever Sam's going to tell you to do. At the end of this lecture, go see Malcolm X by Spike Lee. So he showed me that when I was 10, and this was when I was in Atlanta, and I remember kids like making fun of me for my skin color and saying I was too dark, and never really understanding why. And then suddenly after seeing that movie, like I started to develop this anger in myself and this frustration with how people would be treated around the world and how I was being treated. And that frustration, it followed me for a long time. Then frustration with people teasing me for being brown and you know, making jokes about like the Quickie Mart, if anybody's familiar with Simpsons, like, you know, people teasing me like out on the street and joking and this and that, and like sometimes being called too black, sometimes too brown, sometimes too white, and like just never really knowing where I was. And then like coming to classes like yours and then learning about the systems that were, you know, kind of like perpetuating these narratives that Devine was talking about, right? These narratives of you're supposed to be a certain way or you're not supposed to be a certain way, and that it was designed that way, right? Like people didn't just wake up and then all of a sudden become racist, right? Like that didn't just magically happen. You didn't just magically become sexist or homophobic. We've been taught and designed that way. So a lot of it was frustration at first. That's where a lot of my inspiration came from. I was like, man, like systems are designing this. This is the status quo. And whenever somebody says something about the status quo or does something about it, they're labeled as troublemakers. Like they're the ones who are the rabble-rousers, the people who aren't supposed to be saying this or doing that. And like that motivated me. That gave me a lot of fuel and a lot of fire, and still does to this day. But I think where that's evolved now that I've been in the social impact sector for 10 years, what inspires me are like the moments of success. You know, like not necessarily saying that, okay, we've completely turned around this entire school system or this entire form of justice in this state or even in this city, you know, expanded this incredible initiative for mental health care. Like, and I've worked on all these different causes. What inspires me are like these like little stories here and there when I hear somebody say that, you know what, like I'm going to go and vote for the first time. Or I hear like a story in a school of kids deciding on their own, not with the teachers or the counselors, deciding on their own that they're going to fight back against bullying, and they're going to build their own program for that. They're not going to wait for the adults to come and solve it for them. Like hearing those little stories, like that's what inspires me now, because like now I've seen so many incredible examples of social change that you can't tell me it's not possible. Like you can't tell me any of the things that we've been fighting for cannot be done, because I know they can be done. I've seen it, and like that along with that continued frustration, like that's why I'm here now.
Dude, so it's like, for example, we could get to a place where we imagine that people who are leaving prison are actually full human beings. And with just a little bit of shaping for many of them, obviously there are some who it's impossible, right? But for some, full human beings, for many, most, full human beings that just need that, we could do that.
Oh, we can do it. I mean, and we see it, right? I worked on this juvenile justice reform initiative in New York, and Devine was in New York, and if you guys don't know, last year, New York, leading into last year, New York was one of 2 states in the entire country that was treating juveniles as adults with respect to crime. So you could be 18, but you're going to be tried as if you're 21, which makes no sense, right? Like, I didn't feel like I was actually an adult in any way until I was maybe like in my late 20s. Asked my wife maybe until like a couple weeks ago, right? So, like, if you think you're an adult right now, like, you're playing yourself, all right? Like, you've got a lot to learn, and trust me, like, I learned sometimes the hard way. And so imagine trying, like, a 17, 18-year-old, like, as an adult, and then just throwing them into solitary. So all that said, we were working on this juvenile justice reform initiative where we said, you know what, we're going to fight through restorative justice. You know, we're going to work on mental health, on wellness, on collaborative problem solving, on being able to, like, actually acknowledge strengths and asset-based thinking, educational training, all this stuff. I remember we had a meeting with a senator, and we were telling him about this incredible work, and we were trying to get him to fund it and all that. At the end of, like, hearing about all this stuff I just shared, he was like, so you're just giving people their dignity back. And, like, that was, like, the most profound thing. It was like, man, like, we've got all these great ideas and nonprofits and initiatives, and all that's really important, and that is going to help us to move the needle. But yeah, we can do this when we just recognize that, yeah, we're all just human beings. We just need to look to one another like, yeah, you deserve your dignity just like I do. You deserve that chance to succeed just like I do. So yeah, you might have had some tough experiences behind you, man, but like you don't need to be just punished for the rest of your life. Like who in here is going to think that Devine should be punished for the rest of his life? Absolutely not, man. This is the type of person who should be leading us. You know what I mean? Like that's what we should be fighting for.
Dude, tell me this. So you were sitting in these seats back in the day, right? What do you wish?
I was always on time too, man.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. What do you wish you knew back then that you know now? What do you wish you would have seen back then that you see now?
You know what's crazy is like there was I had this event recently where there was someone from kind of a left-leaning news program who was speaking, and he was talking about how what he thinks is necessary right now is not so much of just like talking and like. I realize that's contrary in many ways to maybe Social 19 and 300. I was a facilitator myself. We do need dialogue. We need to converse, but a lot of times we just need to do things. And basically his point was that there's a lot of talking and there's a lot of just like getting at each other. And what's funny is as I think about it now, when I was in 119 too, I feel like right now we especially hear that with like social media and like you turn on the news, you see two people in suits yelling at each other. And that's basically all of the news these days. I think even back then when I was in this class, like I think we had that issue too. Where we would step into like our dialogues and we'd be in these circles and like everybody had so much that they had to get off of their chest. And even though like our incredible facilitators and people like Lori, and by the way, if you haven't met Lori yet, like you need to find time to get coffee with her. Like she's amazing, just like Sam. But we always wanted to like be heard over the next person, right? We always wanted to make our statement heard because it was just that important and it was that profound and we knew that we were right. And I think that might be the case even more so right now. But man, like I think I lost so many opportunities to just learn from other people and to understand them, to become a more effective facilitator, to be just a better person, a more well-rounded person. And I think it took me time to like really embrace that notion of compassion and empathy, and that there's so much we could learn from one another. And I know maybe sometimes it feels like it's a cliche, but there's so much more that unites us versus what divides us. And I think that when I was in that setting, a few years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think I always appreciated that or understood that.
Okay, here's my next question. Tell me about the grind out there. You know, people like, people want to get out of college, they want to get out and get a job and so on and so forth. Can you just say a few words about your experience of the grind?
The grind, man.
Like how awesome it is to be here?
That's true, man. I mean, when you're in college, I'll tell you, like, you can try and do anything with like minimal cost. That's maybe the other thing I wish I knew when I was in 119, when I was in college. Like, you can go out and be like, all right, I want to be a ballet dancer this day, and then I'm going to be a violin player the next day. Then I'm going to be a debater the day after that. You can do all of those things and do them all for free. Like, you're not going to be able to do that after college. So take advantage of those opportunities now. All that said, like, the grind. There was this commercial a few years ago, like basketball fans, Blake Griffin, people know Blake Griffin. I'm not a Blake Griffin fan, but he had this commercial where he said that his college coach told him once that you have to fall in love with the process of becoming great. And I love that quote. Like that's something that I've tried to embrace for myself as much as possible, because I think that a lot of times we aspire to that greatness. So for me as a hip hop artist, I'm going to go win a Grammy, right? Or like a nonprofit executive, I'm going to eradicate poverty. I will do that. You know, or my organization, we're going to do that. But it is a grind. Like, you know, in the case of like poverty, you're fighting against systems that have like built institutional racism and poverty and inequity for generations. If there was an idea or a person who could have dismantled it, they would have done it already, which means that you have to embrace every moment and every day and every conversation that you have, which is why like I'm so inspired by like those wins that I was talking about. You know, like on a day-to-day basis, like those people that I meet, the great conversations I get to have, like that's what I'm trying to like just acknowledge and feel good about, while still keeping my mind on like those big things that we need to be fighting for.
Okay, listen, man, I know you're going to perform a song for us, but
Yes, sir.
The piece you just said there, though, I know that you and I have talked about this, whether you're performing in front of 10 people or 400 or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all like, people have this idea in this generation now that's come behind you, that I have to be great before I can contribute. I have to do something really big before I can contribute. And I think sometimes I just feel like it holds people back somehow.
Yeah, no, I think that's true, man. I think that, you know, a lot of times, like, I think people will probably give you advice a lot in college of like, just go pursue your passion. right? Like I'm sure everybody's heard that. Just go pursue your passion. And I think probably a lot of you are probably feeling that's easier said than done. What I would recommend you do is that anything you are doing, do it passionately.
Yeah.
So do it with passion. So the example that Sam was talking about, I was just telling him about this. In the span of the past month, I did one event where I was out in Geneva with the World Economic Forum, actually wearing this NASA hoodie. I'm really proud of it, by the way, for hundreds of people. And it was to a network that then got broadcast out to thousands of people, which was great. Fast forward a month, did a show in New York, rocking at one of the best live music venues in New York for 10 people. And guess what? I performed the same way both times, which was all out, full sweat. Like I was just drenched. Like people came up after me, like even the 10 people, they're like, "Oh, great show!" Ooh, like trying to get off me because like I was soaked, but like
dude,
that was with full passion.
And you got to hug all 10
out, man.
The whole
Absolutely.
audience.
Yes, indeed, man. Yes, indeed.
Dude, I know. That's what I really love about you, by the way. When you're in it, you're just in it. It doesn't matter, man. And like,
It's
God,
all for the
I
love.
that.
It's
Hey,
all for the
so
love.
listen, tell us about this song that.
Yeah, so hopefully I can share just a little bit of that passion, that energy, and maybe a call to act, or maybe a wake up call for all of you. We got some visuals to go with it. The song is called Our Time, and I'm also going to bring up someone who's going to be helping me, who's actually my sister, Jenny, who's going to be on the hook. So I hope you all like it.
Dude, thanks for coming.
Check. It's the dramatic build-up.
It's our time.
Yes.
And we made it through all the
Yeah.
hatred.
I'm staring at the pages blank, hesitating, pen shaking in my hand like damn, how to say this? I'm mannequin, I'm waiting for a ray of inspiration. The words just hang, but soon I get to painting. The canvas is the planet, I could be the David while Goliath is the giant, the source of all the painting. I'm done with all the blaming. I name the chapter change and dedicate remaining ages to a brand of trouble making. Yeah. And I was so frustrated, underestimated, feeling suffocated. They thought that I was jaded, ranked as a layman. Gotta prove I'm underrated. Bang, resuscitated. The section is a thanks. Haters get a foot, no potential in my window. You're my motivation. Till the records break a rich or poor in equation. I'm pouring out my soul like whoa, yo, I made it.
It's our time, and we made it through all the hatred. And all the infantry fight for the fighting. Made up our minds.
We made up our minds, it's our time. Yes. Yo, the harsh truth, time waits for no man. Life flying by, trudging through a slow dance. It's the drama, but without the romance. Till you reach the cliff and look down and there is no chance. So before we go, Geronimo, let's step up in the capsule, knock up on the door of the life that could have been the life that's gonna be the heights of individuals. We're writing all the goals. I'm never old, I'm younger. I'm feeling bold, I'm gonna cut my teeth on dreams so I can feed my hunger. And this is food for thought. I choose to be the hunter. My plunder is a punishment for suckers going under. I scribble in abundance, I love it. Feeling drunk is something steering in my stomach. It's a fire from the thunder. The prize is something bigger. Publish ain't enough. Run until the pencil's running and the notebook erupts.
It's our time, and we made it through all the hatred. And all the infantry for the fighting. Made up our minds. All believe in us.
It's our time. It's our time. I put the pen down to realize the man in the mirror is looking back. I see the venom within his eyes, even if the odds are feeling stacked. Hey, until he fades to the black. These pages of fact, I'm blazing the track. Naysayers are made to collapse. I'm braver than the rest. If pressed, I attack. Life's a mystery, blink is history. Fight through misery, fly so wishfully. Strive for inner peace, minds we win with these. Right for sinfully, life begins with me.
It's our time, and we made it through all the hatred.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bring 'em out, bring 'em out, bring 'em out. We made up our minds, it's our time. Believe in us, victorious. And we became legendary, yeah. This is our time. This is our moment. It is no more urgent than this moment right now. Don't be that person who a couple days from now, a couple weeks from now, a couple months from now wonders what could have been, what should have been. This is what I was supposed to do. This is what I could have been doing. Nah, take advantage of this opportunity, this moment right now, because this is our time. It is our time. You march with us, cause it's our time. You march with us. It's our time. You march with us. The legends erupt. The legends erupt. Yo, it's our time. You march with us. Yeah, it's our time. You march with us. Yo, it's our time. You march with us. The legends erupt. The legends erupt. Yo, it's our time. It's our time. It's our time. The legends erupt. The legends erupt. Yo, it's our time. You march with us. Yo, it's our time. You march with us. Yes, it's our time. You march with us. The legends erupt. The legends erupt. Thank you so much. Let's change the world. Much appreciated.